Okay, we're here with legend of the Hardwood, Elmore, college basketball analyst, former Power Memorial great, former Maryland great, former NBA player. So how do you think college athletes should be better compensated, and also what do you think about the one and done rule? Do you think the age limit should be raised? Do you think it should be obliterated? What do you think?
Well, I mean, not to ever be characterized as a hater, which some people do, but I think one and done is one of the more exploitive rules that there are, simply because, again, I believe that looking at dropout rates, particularly in inner cities, we should be building superhighways towards education, towards higher education, instead of off-ramps, and that's what one and done does. It takes the junior high and high school player who thinks they're going to be professional athletes, fills their heads with the dream that after 1 year in college, I can go on and be a pro. Now, I'm not worried about the prodigies, the LeBrons, the Kobes, and those guys, because they were going to be successful no matter what. But I think a rule should be in place that if a young person qualifies for college and goes through, that they should, from a maturity standpoint, from a development standpoint, they should be able to continue more than just 1 year. They should be forced to continue more than 1 year to gain that maturity and that development, to be better people as well as better basketball players. From an exploitive standpoint, we've seen academic fraud where people come in not even reading high school level. They leave college after a year or two not reading high school level, but yet have passed grades that allow them to be eligible, and we know that that is certainly fraud. We've seen exploitation in any other number of ways, and particularly from the standpoint of room, board, books, and tuition, as people think that that is enough to cover the cost of education, when in fact it's not. If we were to take a look at what the minimum wage might be, if we applied that to the hours young people would apply to playing the game of basketball and other sports from revenue-generating sports in college, you'd see that the cost of education could be somewhere along a stipend of $3,000 or so that young people should be able to have and be given so that they can feel as though they were part of a university community instead of, scraping along, or instead of accepting, illegal gifts and gratuities from people who don't have their best interests at heart.
Do you see any of those changes being made? Could you picture any of that actually happening anytime soon?
Well, I think the dialogue is open. And what's important is that there have been discussions on paying that gap between room, board, books, and tuition and the cost of education. Now, figuring out the formula is something I think that the powers that be are trying to do. But that type of discussion, obviously the extreme discussions about forming unions in college sports, all of these things have opened the dialogue and opened people's eyes to recognize that, you want to balance the equities, the billions of dollars that the NCAA makes on revenue college sports, that the individual institutions and the conferences make. Certainly some of that money should inure to the benefit of student athletes more so than it has right now. Now, I'm not an advocate of paying salaries. I don't believe that it should be work for hire when it comes to playing sports, collegiate sports, because the value of amateurism and some of the things that go along with it, and even though amateurism has to be redefined, the value of amateurism still, holds value to teach young people certain qualities, certain goals and values. To separate college sports from professional sports, you need to have that difference in concept between amateurism and professionalism. Otherwise, if you start paying collegiate athletes, what's the difference between college sports and pro sports? So I'm not an advocate of that, but I do believe that, again, balance of the equities where student athletes gain greater benefit from playing for their school, also recognizing the difficulty in studying and gaining an education as well as playing the sport. I think those things are very important to recognize, and that in a balance of equities, young people should be made whole.
Okay, and just to kind of finish up on something lighthearted, we talked about it a little bit before, but what differentiates a New York player from any other high school city player?
Well, I think, especially in my day, where New York, as far as playing the game of basketball, was king. Every college looked to try to recruit players from New York City because of heightened competition. And growing up in this city and recognizing some of the difficulties you know, you have to realize there is a true grit that was involved with New York City players. Today, not so much. I mean, there are some kids who have that benefit of playing in tough competition, able to go to school, compete, but all too often, because of the education system here in the city, which makes it really hard, the struggles some young people have to go through, and never really being able to, you know, surmount the challenges presented to them nowadays, you know, it's hard. I mean, you have, you know, gang-related situations, you have lack of educational opportunities, you know, you have poverty and some of the other things that will hold people back, and not a lot of kids are able to escape that. So, you know, I think that the heart, the true grit, as much as any place else, New York City could be kind of the place that spawns great players with great heart.
All right, Mr. Elmore, Hardwood Insiders would like to thank you for participating in Legends of the Hardwood. We look forward to catching you next year on ESPN.
All right, it'd be my pleasure.
All right.